Hello, greetings to you, my dear students. Today we are going to see one very interesting topic, my dear students. Already in this topic, I have done 3 lectures, my dear students. This is the 4th part, my dear students. If you haven't watched those lectures, please go and watch it, my dear students. I'll paste the link in the description box so that you can find it so easily, my dear students. Particularly the first video. In that video only, I have explained everything in depth, my dear students. Why we need graph, from graph what are the things we can get, particularly in which topic. This graphical transformation is very important. Everything I have explained to you, my dear students. If you haven't watched, please go and watch that lecture, my dear students. So in this lecture, what we are going to see, let's see, my dear students. So already, my dear students, in 3 lectures, I have finished this polynomial functions. Already I have explained you, my dear students, these functions, divisions of functions, everything. If you want to know in depth, please go and watch those lectures, my dear students. Okay. Now, let's see. Already in those 3 lectures, I have explained the polynomial functions, which are x, x square and x cube, and the generalized terms from all these 3, my dear students. Today we are going to see a rational functions, my dear students. So these rational functions, which is also very important, my dear students. By this lecture, I'll try to finish this rational function, my dear students. If not, there will be the another part. Okay, my dear students. Then let's see irrational, and step by step we'll cover everything, my dear students, whatever you are seeing here. Okay, now let's go into the topic, my dear students. So first thing, rational functions, they also call it as the reciprocal function, my dear students. Why, sir? Why they are calling themselves as reciprocal function? Because whatever the polynomial function is there, if we do reciprocal, that will become rational. That's all. So if identity function x is there, if I reciprocal it, reciprocal means you all know, right, my dear students? Just I have to bring it up to down. That's all. Down means up. That is reciprocal, my dear students. So if it is like this, then it gives only the rational values, my dear students, rational numbers. What is actually rational function, my dear students? The function, whatever input I am giving, my output always will be the rational values. That means rational numbers, rational integers, whatever we can say, my dear students. So my function going to give me only the rational numbers. In rational numbers, integers is also there, my dear students. 1 is also the rational number. Okay, I hope you all know about those real numbers, rational numbers, irrational numbers, everything, my dear students. If you have any kind of doubt, please ask me in the comment box. I'll explain you. I'll put one separate lecture for that also. Okay. Now x means 1 by x. So whatever the function which goes reciprocal for our polynomial, if I take x square, then it becomes 1 by x square, my dear students. Then it is the rational function. Likewise, my dear students, there are so many rational functions are there. Let's see some standard graphs. From that standard graphs, whatever the difficult graph they are going to give, you can achieve it, my dear students. You can do it. Okay, so no problem at all. So now let's see, my dear students, how to draw the graph for this 1 by x function. Already I have said the identity function, which is y is equals to x, which means what, my dear students? Whatever input I am going to give, the same output I'll get. That's what this identity function means. And I also already said this is the graph for the identity function, my dear students. In first lecture, I have taught this identity function only. In depth, I have covered everything, my dear students. If you are very interested to learn graphical transformation, please go and watch that lecture. Okay. So y is equals to x, my dear students. That's what the identity function. But here they have reciprocal it. So what we have to do? Whenever, before you are going to draw the graph, my dear students, first you have to know what is domain and codomain. Particularly domain, my dear students. What is domain actually? For the function, the domain means what, for whichever the value, if I get the defined output, that means that thing is there in output, that thing is there in the domain, my dear students. For example, here y is equals to x, here the domain is what, my dear students? The domain is R. So for every real number, there is the defined value, because whatever the input I am giving, the same output I am going to get. So there is no problem at all, my dear students. So here the domain is R, but when it comes to 1 by x, it's not R, my dear students. Why, sir? So for one value, it is going to be undefined. What is that value, my dear students? I hope you all know. The value is 1 by 0. So like this, there are so many indeterminate forms are there, my dear students. When calculus comes, right, on the time I'll explain you. In limits, there is one separate topic is there under limits for indeterminate forms. That indeterminate forms is the psych, my dear students, that creates the problem for so many students. But you don't worry at all. I'll make that into very much simple as much as I can, so that you can learn it very easily, my dear students. Okay. So now here for 1 by 0, which is going to become undefined, my dear students. 1 by 0 won't give the defined value, which is going to give me an undefined values only, my dear students. So what I am going to do, this 0 I am going to eliminate from my domain, my dear students. Except this, for every or, for me no problem at all. For everything it is going to give me value except at 0. So for me at 0 there is no value, my dear students. Okay. Strictly my function 1 by x not equal to 0. So next point I am taking, which is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, my dear students. So for x is equals to 1, what is the answer, my dear students? The answer is 1. So I hope you can understand, my dear students. X is equals to 1 means it going to give me the answer is 1. For 2, what will be the answer, my dear students? At the half, 0.5. Maybe for 1 by 2 here, if there is the value 1 by 2, then what will be my answer, my dear students? 2. If it is 1 by 3, then it is 3. So from 0 to 1, it goes closer to 0, my dear students, but it never touches the 0. So my graph goes like this, my dear students. I hope you can understand. The same thing ditto, it will copy from here, minus 1, and it goes like this, my dear students. So this is the graph for the 1 by x function, my dear students. I hope you understand it. So see clearly, my dear students, here 0. Here one thing I have to say, which is this function does not equals to 0, but this function is approaching to 0. That's what in calculus they have mentioned, my dear students. Limit x tends to 0, which means just goes very closer, my dear students, very closer to the 0, but it never touches the 0. That's the thing you have to keep in your mind, my dear students. Have to be ready. 0, it very much closer, my dear students, but it never touches the 0. That thing you have to keep in mind, because there is the difference between does not equal to 0, approaching to 0. Though it is does not equal to 0, which the value is going very closer, my dear students. As I said, 1 by 3 means 3. Likewise, the point is going very closer. My values are very keen, very much, they say, right, my dear students, so close. In just a miss I have escaped, like that you used to say, right, whenever principal is doing for rounds for checking everything, and if you have done any mistake and if you not caught, and if you just ran away from that position, then you say, right, just a miss I have escaped from that situation, like that. So like that, my dear students, here also it goes very closer, but it never touches that line. You have to keep that in your mind, my dear students. So that's what here in calculus, let me explain you what is limit everything, my dear students. For everything I am planning to do a separate lecture for you, separate one shot lectures. So please don't worry, I'll do it for you very soon. The video is coming, my dear students. Okay. So this is the graph, my dear students. Now let's do a research as we have done for the previous videos, my dear students, previous lectures. So f of x is equals to 1 by x. Now we are going to find what is the domain. Already I have said the domain is R, but I am going to eliminate that 0. Except 0, everything is there in my R, my dear students. That is the domain. The same value is for range. So for range also no problem, my dear students. The same domain is I am getting as the range. So as you can see here, 0 except 0, it is taking all the values. The graph is covering all the values in the full graph. So my range is except 0, it is covering everything. So only my range is R minus 0 and the domain is also R minus 0, my dear students. And symmetric. As I said before, this one is an odd function, my dear students. If it is an odd function, it is symmetric about opposite quadrants. But in polynomial, I have said it is also symmetric about origin because it cuts at the origin point. So which looks similar from origin. If I cut at the origin, which is going to be similar on both sides, my dear students. But here it is not symmetric about origin. This is just only symmetric about opposite quadrants, my dear students. So it is opposite quadrants. Next, from graph itself, before class itself, I have explained you, my dear students, how to find even and odd function. So odd function means which is symmetrical about opposite quadrants. From there also you can say this is an odd function, and odd function covers mostly all the part of the graph. Positive, negative, it won't leave any part, my dear students. Mostly it will cover everything. So if it is also symmetric about quadrants, then we can say this is odd function, my dear students. I hope you all know the definition for even and odd. Everything I have explained in the previous lectures, my dear students. If you have a time, please go and watch and learn it, my dear students. Okay. So this one is an odd function, my dear students. And next thing, periodic, no, my dear students. As I said before, in polynomial function, there won't be any kind of periodic functions will be there. In trigonometry and in piecewise functions, some functions are there periodic. Periodic means what, my dear students? At x is equals to 1, my value is 1. Again, for which value I'll get the value 1, my dear students? For nothing, right? For everything, it gives the unique value only, not the, it won't repeat the same value again and again for particular input. If it happens only, then we can say that is periodic function, my dear students. Then one-to-one and on-to function. What is one-to-one function, my dear students? Already I have explained you how to find from the graph. And if you draw the line, horizontal line, and if it cuts your graph exactly at single point, then your function is the one-to-one function. Otherwise, this is not an one-to-one function, my dear students. So this one is an one-to-one function. And onto function, my dear students. How to find whether it is an onto function or not? To find that through graph, for onto function only, my dear students, you have to be very careful with the domain and codomain. If my codomain is also R minus 0, then for me no problem. By graph I can directly say, my dear students. From graph, how we can say, my dear students? It have to cover all the, if I draw any horizontal line anywhere in the graph, it have to touch my graph, my dear students. If there is any lacking is there, then I can say this graph is not a onto function. Here you can have the doubt, sir, at 0 there is the line which does not touch any graph, sir. So only I said, my dear students, here codomain matters a lot. Here if the codomain is, if maybe the codomain is R, my dear students, then this one is not an onto function. Maybe if the codomain, maybe if the codomain is R minus 0, my dear students, then it's the onto function. So it depends, my dear students. Maybe it is an onto function or may not be. it depends upon the codomain. So whenever they are asking you whether it is an onto function or not, maybe they will confuse you, my dear students. On that time you have to be very careful how to find one-to-one and onto function, because these applications are very important in calculus, my dear students. You can directly say whether it is one-to-one function means there are so many results are there. If it is one to one, some some properties it will satisfy. It's like onto function also, it will satisfy some properties in calculus, so that you can directly solve it. Here only the properties and formulas will make your time very simple, my dear students. Otherwise you will spend so much time for every problem and you itself lose your confidence, everything. So in mathematics paper, speed only matters, my dear students. For that speed you have to know as much as properties. If you sit and mug up, surely you will forget, my dear students. Only thing, by understanding and by solving so many problems only, you can able to master it. Okay, so the onto function may or may not be, my dear students. And bijective function, you all know whether it is both one to one and onto function, then we can say bijective function, my dear students. Here also it comes under the condition whether it is bijective function or not bijective function, because of our onto codomain only. Okay, my dear students, maybe or may not be. And increasing decreasing function, my dear students, this also varies from interval to interval, my dear students. This is not a monotonically increasing function or monotonically decreasing. At interval wise it might increase and it might decrease. So you have to be careful with the intervals, my dear students, whenever they are asking. Okay, then derivative, my dear students, differentiation and continuation. Already I have said to you to find the derivative, which means differentiation concept means if the graph is smooth and continuous throughout the graph, then we can say this function is differentiable everywhere. But here this is discontinuous, my dear students. Oh, I have erased everything. Okay, fine. Here you can see this is not a continuous graph like this. This is not a continuous graph like this, my dear students. Here these two are discontinuous graph. So for the entire R, this is not a differentiable function, my dear students. This is just a differentiable locally. For interval to interval it varies, my dear students. Particularly for 0, this function is self undefined. So I can't say for the entire or it is going to be differentiable. As well as this is not continuous also, my dear students. If the graph is smooth as well as continuous, then only I can say this is differentiable everywhere. But here this is discontinuous, so it is not differentiable everywhere. For somewhere it is differentiable, my dear students. So they'll ask questions like you, my dear students, whether it is differentiable everywhere, somewhere, anywhere, like that. They will confuse you with grammatical words also. So learn some English vocabulary, solve those problems also, my dear students. Okay, so here this is not differentiable, my dear students, for R, but for locally it's differentiable, and you also know the formula how to do it. Just if you can convert this into x power minus 1, then you can solve, you will get the answer minus 1 by x square, my dear students. These are like very simple. So this is what they have explained to you, my dear students. For this itself I have taken 19 minutes. I thought I can finish it within 20 minutes, my dear students. Okay, next lecture let me explain you the next part of this irrational function, my dear students. Okay, so let me explain you now, my dear students. A function defined by f of x is equals to 1 by x, then it is called the reciprocal function, my dear students. That's what I have explained to you. Or rectangular hyperbola, this shape comes from rectangular hyperbola, my dear students, and they said the axis points as the asymptotes. Asymptotes means what, my dear students? It goes closer but it won't touch, like that point. So all the 4 axes are here asymptotes. They act as the asymptotes, my dear students, because all of them are covered with the curves. Coordinate axis as the asymptotes, my dear students. That's what they have explained. And here domain and range, they both are or minus 0 only. Okay, my dear students, and I also explained how it is odd function. Since it is odd function, this is symmetrical about opposite quadrants. So wherever they are giving the odd function, sometimes in properties they might ask you, my dear students, if the function is odd, then it is symmetrical about opposite quadrants. Okay, my dear students. Also, we observe limit extends to 0 plus. This is what I have explained to you, my dear students, approaching to 0 or tends to 0. There is the difference between does not equals to 0 and approaches to 0 or tends to 0. Everything let me explain you in calculus topic, my dear students. On the time you will enjoy a lot, I am sure. As x tends to plus or minus infinity, which implies f of x tends to 0, my dear students. Okay. Thus, f of x is equals to 1 by x could be shown in the figure. That's these things I have explained you, my dear students. I think you liked this video. If you have any doubt, please ask me in the comment box, my dear students. In next lecture, let me teach you what is 1 by x square and the generalized term, and I will finish the irrational functions, my dear students. If graph for the irrational functions. I hope you liked this video. This video is going to be very useful for you. If it is, please comment it down, my dear students, or if there is any corrections or whatever thing you want to say to me, please comment it down so that I can learn myself, my dear students, in which thing I am very much lacking, so I can improve myself. If you comment means only I can know, my dear students, so please comment it down, and bye bye. Thank you, my dear students.